Support for TC Jewfolk comes from The Ordway, presenting Fiddler on the Roof. This beloved theatrical masterpiece introduces a new generation to the powerful, heartwarming story of fathers and daughters and husbands and wives. Running from November 30th through December 12th in downtown St. Paul, tickets are available at ordway.org, and when you use our exclusive discount code TCJ at checkout between now and November 30th, you'll get 15% off your order, up to 4 tickets per account. That discount is available on tickets the first week of the run, November 30th through December 3rd and December 5th in the evening. And TC Jewfolk is supported by Englander Dental and Dr. Manuel Englander. Located at 3801 West 50th Street in Edina, Dr. Englander and his caring professional dental team provide full-service dental care and transform smiles. Englander Dental specializes in everything from routine cleanings and teeth whitening to root canals, implants, and tooth replacement. For more information, go to englanderdental.com. Welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. I'm Lonnie Goldsmith, the editor of TC Jewfolk. This week I talk with Gabe Herstig, the Israel program specialist at the Minneapolis Jewish Federation. We talk about what led him to this position, his family's ties to the Jewish community in Minneapolis, and how dealing with the pandemic helped him to refocus on this week's Who the Folk podcast. Gabe Herstig, welcome to the Who the Folk podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're the new Israel program specialist at the Minneapolis Jewish Federation and the MJF's Israel Center. So I guess for starters, tell me a little bit about what that means and what the experience has been like getting rolling in this new position.
Yeah, so I began about 2 months ago here at MJF, and I am super excited to be on board. What being the Israel program specialist means is I have my finger on the P2G program that we have with Rehovot Israel. It's an exchange program that we have, and we run a plethora of stuff. And the biggest things are a program called Connect Teen, and that is a teen program here in Minneapolis, and it's a handful of sessions. We are going to be doing a book reading, Letters to My Palestinian Neighbor. So it's a joint program that we'll be doing with JCRC, another Jewish organization here in Minneapolis. So the kids will read this book, hear from Palestinian people who live in Palestine, just hear kind of what it means to be a Jew outside of the United States and to maybe not have the same opinion on Israel as others. And then we will be doing a lot of collaborative work with the teen group that is going to be doing the same program in Rehovot. Additionally, the teens from Rehovot are going to be coming here in April. So there will be a group of about 10 teens who are going to come to Minneapolis in April, fingers crossed. COVID hopeful.
Yes.
And so that is the Connect Teen program. We also run a program called 248, which is a young adult to, middle-aged adult, so 24 to 48-year-old program where people in the Minneapolis community are able to apply. And it's an entrepreneurial-esque program. Emma Dunn, the director of Yala, has been running it for the past 2 years, and I'm going to be joining her this year in running the program. This is the 5th cohort. And there are cohorts in Denver, in Toronto, in England, and a couple of communities in Israel. And it's basically finding initiatives within the Jewish community or outside of the Jewish community that people in Minneapolis want to bring to light. So I know that there was a program a couple of years ago, and I'm blanking on the man who started it, but he collects Judaica. Old Judaica such as menorahs, Kiddush cups, stuff like that, and repurposes it for individuals who may not have those things.
Adam Schwartz and Heritage Judaica.
Yes. See, you know more than me. But so Adam was a participant within the 248 program, and so stuff like that, stuff that benefits the community, and again, a learning and leadership development program. Additionally, I do all of the outward facing stuff for Israel Center as far as scholarships. So if you are a Minneapolis teen or a young adult who's going to be going to Israel, there's a plethora of scholarship available through Israel Center and through the Minneapolis Jewish Federation. And if you go onto the Minneapolis Jewish Federation website and click on scholarship and apply, I am the person who's going to be reaching out to you and interviewing you to get you those funds for those trips. So that is, at this point, from what I know, that is what I will be doing here with MJF and Israel Center, and it's going really well. You know, high holidays were a big chunk of September, and I know the whole Jewish community kind of was stagnant on and off, working and not working. But you know, I'm really excited to hit the ground running here now that the high holidays are over, and you know, get my feet underneath myself and really take this role on.
Well, especially hard when the high holidays all fall during the week,
Correct.
which means you're looking at, 1 to 2 days off a week for the entire month. It makes it really hard
Yeah, it's
to
crazy. I
to
didn't think
feel
I would
like
ever be.
you get any look. It's great when you're a kid. Like, I was a day school kid growing up in Michigan. I loved when the holidays were during the week because I'm tired. We're looking at 2 or 3 day school weeks for a
Absolutely.
month. But now, as a professional, it gets really hard to feel like you get into any sort of workflow.
Yeah, I'm 2 years, a little more than 2 years out of college, and I never thought I would hear myself saying I wish that I had a full work week. Um, so I
Oh yeah,
totally agree with you.
you're too young. You're too young to be saying that.
Yeah, yeah. But so happy that the high holidays are behind us, and happy to be hitting the ground running.
So, one of the things you mentioned, one of the programs with the connecting with the letters to my Palestinian neighbor, fun cross promotion for me. On one of Jew folks' other podcasts, The Jews Are Tired, which dropped on Thursday, October 21st. The host of the show, Lev Gringos, and myself interviewed Yossi Klein Halevi. We had an hour with him while he was in town in mid-October for a JCRC program at Minnesota Hillel. So we got to spend some time with him. So go, if people are interested in a little bit more about the book, by all means, go listen to that. We'll have a link to the show in the podcast notes. But it was a really, really cool opportunity to get to sit down with him. He is very interesting and brings a lot of really interesting perspectives to the discussion of what's going on in Israel right now. So I highly recommend that. So you, Gabe, you come from a very Jewish, family, very Jewishly involved family. What is it like to now work in the Jewish community, given who your folks are and the upbringing that you've had in the in the Twin Cities Jewish world?
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. I think there's only one or two people here at the Federation who were here when my dad was working here in his stint at the Minneapolis Jewish Federation. But everybody kind of seems to know me or know things about me, even if I don't know them. It's pretty funny. So I've got people coming up to me at work and they're asking, "Oh, when are your dad and Barb due? Oh, how's your mom doing?" And I'm like, "I've never, personally met you." So, it's interesting. It's interesting. And I guess, it just gives people a little bit of background context on me. But it's cool because, I came to the decision that I wanted to work in the Jewish community on my own, and, went through that process, my way, and, the way that I deemed most comfortable and best for myself. And I think both my parents and those around me can kind of see the passion, I guess, that I have to be in this role. And it doesn't have anything to do with my parents' history. I just think it's a fun little tidbit and adds a little bit of context to who I am.
And so your dad is now the CEO of the St. Louis Federation.
Yes, that is correct.
After being in Minneapolis, and my kids are both gone graduates, and so they had music with your mom, Lori, for years and
Yeah.
years at the Gon and the Noah's Ark Shabbats. That was she was a fixture at those.
Absolutely. And actually, funny enough, my girlfriend actually is working in the communications department at the GON. So she actually works at the front desk when you walk in, Michaela Bush. So yeah, we keep it tight. Everybody's kind of in the same realm. But it's just fun. It's fun. It really is. It's a fun sense of community, and it's a fun topic of conversation. It kind of, the personal and professional kind of mixes, and I really enjoy it.
So that's a good thing, not a bad thing, because I suppose at a certain point it could be looked at as like, maybe I want my professional to stay professional, my personal to,
Yeah.
keep them in their boxes.
I think that as far as, my family, I think it's just a point of passion and a point of pride. And I think that, um, at least for me, when I was thinking about this job transition, um, it made the most sense to me. I've always been super involved growing up, within, going to a DOS and being a part of USY, going to the University of Kansas, being heavily involved in Hillel Chabad, just thinking about the things that I had always been super interested in, and really cared about. So when it came to, wanting to find a job, to me, it seemed natural. Maybe it's because that's what I grew up surrounded by and involved with my parents, but that's that's how I took it. So, to this point, I've seen no negatives, and it's been a really positive and amazing experience.
So what was it that about this particular position at Federation that really spoke to you in a way that it was time to make that jump into the Jewish communal professional world?
So as I said, I've always been super involved, you know, socially, Jewishly. I think, organizationally, I've always been very involved with Jewish organizations, and held leadership positions within those organizations. And um, I think for me, the biggest thing and the biggest um, formative experience that I've had within my life was my experience going on Alexander Muss High School in Israel,
Hmm.
as a teen. And, going from being in high school to going to a campus, living in a dorm with a lot of people that I didn't know. Not only were the people on my program amazing, not only was the Israel course and being in Israel amazing, but then the transition from high school to college, going from school to a place where, living on a campus in a dorm with a lot of people I didn't know, I felt like I had already had that experience, and it made it extremely easy, to go from high to transition into the next stage of life. And so that was an experience that really stuck with me. And so when Eilat Harel, the head of the Israel Center, reached out to me, um, and we connected on this job, it really, made sense to me. This experience that I had, that was the most impactful experience in my life to this date. I had the opportunity to take the role on, and be, an advisor, I guess, for kids to have that same, hopefully that same type of experience. It was a no brainer to me.
So I've talked to some other people who have done Muss. Was there a particular experience or a moment or sort of one thing about the experience that you could pinpoint that really spoke to you in a sort of, I won't say transcendental way, but
Yeah.
in that sort of way that really drove it home?
Yeah, I think, and there are all the cliches, going to the Kotel, but I think that, climbing Masada and watching the sunrise, and then, being able to do our lesson plan on Masada, at the top of Masada, doing our, basically our class was on Masada for the day. And for me, I was looking for an experience where I was going to be able to learn. Um, Not saying that, a USY or NCSY or BBYO trip aren't amazing, because they are, and any Israel experience that you have will be incredible. But for me, in that time, I was looking for, um, a deeper dive, I guess,
Mm.
into Israel, and not just seeing the sites, but being able to learn about the history of the land while experiencing it. So being able to climb Masada, have that lesson on top of Masada with my peers was absolutely incredible. And I guess the pinpoint of the trip.
And I, you know, like you said, all trips are great, and it just sort of depends what the individual wants out of it, right?
Absolutely.
You're
There,
looking for you're looking for the more educational type experience where you can learn and do, you know, sort of the, I don't want to call them the cliched experiences, but like, you know, the checklist of the things, right?
yeah,
Masada, the Kotel, the Dead Sea, all, like, you can do all of those things, but also have a learning experience with it.
absolutely. And there is, again, on the Minneapolis Jewish Federation website, we have a list of all the programs that are available to teens and young adults. And it is a very, very extensive list. And there's something for everybody. And I just think that local Jews getting to Israel, you know, COVID, COVID aside, is an extremely important thing and something that everybody should be able to do.
And, you know, hopefully, you know, things start getting better here. Things continue to stay good in Israel, that we can have that sort of experience for both, you know, teens going in each direction.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you know, again, you know, fortunately, Israel's sort of at the forefront of a lot of the research. So I'm hoping that at least keeps things in a decent place, that the experiences can have, you know, and, you know, that's sort of set for next year can still take place.
Yeah, and we have our 248 program. We are planning to go to Israel in January at this point,
Okay.
and for a week, end of January, beginning of February. So you know we're just monitoring. Everything's changing obviously very quickly and very and very often.
Yeah.
So we're keeping track of everything, and you know, fingers crossed we're able to go for our 248 program.
And that's, you know, things change so quick. It is sort of hard to wrap your head around.
Right.
Like, it's the questions of, like, how do you plan when you don't know what may end up being or not being, right?
Yeah, I mean we've got a plan A, B, and C, and the alphabet goes on for everything. Um, and you know, just hopeful that plan A can be executed for our programming, but you know, understanding and being realistic at times that you know there an ongoing pandemic is still happening.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the other piece of Israel, of course, is we're a year and a half away from Israel's 75th. And I know that Federation I mean, preceding your arrival, has been putting out information about their plans for a big mission in 2023. Is that something that your position is involved in yet, or?
So I have not had a finger on the mega mission yet. I am going to be brought in the next handful of months.
Okay.
Our mega mission coordinator, Kara Rosenwald, just joined us about a month and a half ago,
Okay.
and they are in the beginning stages of getting that trip planned. So I am, you know, I've said multiple times, you know, looking forward to get my finger on it and helping out any way I can. Um, yeah, I'm really excited. I am hopeful to be on the trip. Um, and yeah, can't wait to see all the incredible stuff that Kara and the team comes up with.
You're incredibly enthusiastic.
I try to be. I try to look at, you know, I think COVID has taught people a lot of things about themselves, about the world. But you know, COVID was really hard for me personally, coming out of college and you know, being in a relatively new environment, you know, moving back from school, and it was hard. And so I think just being positive and looking at a cup half empty versus half full is something that I really try to do on a day-to-day basis. Um, but I also think the enthusiasm comes from the job that I'm in, and you know, I get energy from doing things that I enjoy, and so I think you know this position has really brought me a lot of enthusiasm, happiness, joy thus far.
You know, you bring up something interesting, and I think a lot of people sort of talk about the how younger, you know, school age kids, high school seniors, whatnot, you know, and juniors were affected by COVID. But like, the, you know, in the recent grads, I think a lot of people sort of just looked at what it's like to try to find a job when you graduate either, in 2020 while COVID is happening, or in your case, 2019, right before. So what was that experience like as you sort of moved home from Lawrence and tried to get settled as like a new graduate and find a job, but then everything else sort of crashed around you?
It was difficult. You go from having consistency with school, with the people you surround yourself with, all these facets of life. You move home, which is, uh, or elsewhere, wherever you get a job, which is
Mhm.
a whole challenge within itself. And um, I was I was interning with a local event planner named Amy Zaroff,
Oh,
and
sure.
not sure if you know Amy Z, but was
Uh,
with Amy for about 8 months, and took on a role at Mall of America doing the same kind of stuff, event planning, public facing events. Thought I wanted to do event planning, and then COVID hit, and I was furloughed, and um, it was really difficult to go basically in a year from having consistency and knowing exactly what's going to happen day to day to quite the opposite. You know, nothing is promised. You're locked in your house. You don't see anybody. It's really difficult. So truthfully, I was not doing well mentally, and that was something I think I negated for a lot of school, and I think that a lot of people have negated for a long time, is to take care of themselves and their well-being, both mentally, emotionally. And so for me, I really struggled, and it was really difficult. And so I took the first couple months of COVID as luckily I was able to live at home for a bit, but took it to really work on myself and um, work on work on things within myself that I hadn't had the chance to do, because life moves quick, and nobody previously had really taken the time to just kind of stop and think things through, and what do I need. So you know cup half full, COVID was kind of a silver lining for me, because I was really able to work on myself and figure out what was important to me, both on a day-to-day basis and overarching. Um, and so I think that really, over the last 2 years, I think that's really what led me to this position, um, was the difficulties of COVID, that I dealt with personally. Um, so wasn't the most pleasant experience, but long term, I'm very very thankful, for for what for what I had for what I had to do over the last 2 years, and everybody's got their own story, and has kind of navigated this pandemic in their own way. But for me, kind of crummy in the moment, but long term, a very positive thing.
Well, it's great that you were able to find sort of that silver lining and also, do what you needed to do for you personally, and then, sort of let the professional piece of it come as it did, and as you were ready to take it on.
Absolutely, and I know that everybody is in different positions. I was at a point where I just graduated, didn't have a lot of responsibility, didn't have kids, didn't have, not married, no, right? Like, so I
Yeah.
was very fortunate that I was kind of in limbo, a limbo of life stage. So was really able to kind of just take that and run with it while I had the time to do so.
That's great. It's great that you were able to do that and get everything sorted, and it looks like and sounds like you're, thriving and really enjoying this new opportunity.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's I'm very thankful. There are still ups and downs, and I think that's the biggest thing that I've really um figured with COVID was, and just for everybody listening, and you're it's okay to not be okay.
Mm.
But I think to recognize that, and to um move forward with that is very important. And people are always willing to listen and lend an ear, or a shoulder, whatever. People are there for each other, and so I think the biggest thing is, don't be afraid to kind of be outspoken if you're struggling, because everybody's going through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a long 2 years since I graduated, and the pandemic is still ongoing, but it's yeah, I feel like I've come a long way personally, and professionally here in these last 2 years. And so super excited to be where I'm at right now, and I'm super excited to see what the future holds.
Well, that is fantastic. Oh, Gabe, last two questions for you,
Yes, sir.
and we will let you get on with your day. First of all, what is your favorite Jewish food?
Favorite Jewish food. So, falafel, and I'm blanking on the name, but when I was on Alexander Muss, there was a falafel stand in Hod HaSharon right outside of campus. And for any listeners who have attended Muss, I want to say it was maybe called Blue Door. I don't know if that sounds right, but there was a falafel restaurant that was absolutely incredible. Shawarma, they just loaded everything in the pita, and I still dream about it almost 10 years later.
Well, soon enough, hopefully you'll be able to get back there for it.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
And what is your favorite Jewish holiday?
My favorite Jewish holiday. That's a tough one. I really like Hanukkah, just because it generally falls around Thanksgiving, before, after. So I'm always with family, and family's super important to me. So, not to say that I don't like the actual holiday, but I think more of the sentiment of being able to spend time with family, and just to have that kind of experience has always been super awesome. I spend Thanksgiving with my mother's side of the family. So, and I guess Passover too, because I have family in Kansas City, my dad's side, so get to spend time during Passover with family as well. So, yeah, all the holidays are great, but the family oriented holidays are my favorite, just because of, I guess, the memories that I have of them, and the ability to spend time with those close to me.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, Gabe, thank you so much for joining us. We will have links to the Israel Center and the programs that you're helping with. We will put in the show notes as well, so people can check those out if they're interested. But thank you so much for joining me, and we look forward to seeing what's next for you in this great position.
I appreciate it, Lonnie. Thank you so much for having me.
The Who the Folk podcast is part of the Jew Folk Podcast Network, a product of Jew Folk Inc. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you have suggestions for other podcast guests, please email them to me at editor@tcjewfolk.com. For our other shows, check out tcjewfolk.com/podcast.